I wanted to share today, not the big stories and stuff about our visit yesterday, but some impressions that I got. Some of the monastics at Sravasti Abbey went and visited a hermitage yesterday, about 3 hours journey from here, that has been sort of offered and stewarded for the monks of the Thai forest tradition. There's a wonderful layman who's kind of the steward of the place, and he has offered this beautiful land to the monks from Abbey and their hermitages and other monastics as well, and lay practitioners who are very serious meditators. He's opened it up for all of us, even people who aren't Buddhist. He's just lovely. I'll talk about him in a bit. So I didn't want to get into, well, we did this and we did that and we did this, and it was very nice here and there. I wanted to get down into this impression that came up this morning is when my experience of going to some of these, we go to these Buddhist monastic gatherings every year, all the folks in the West who have been ordained in different Buddhist traditions, we get together to gather and to share and to connect. And I find myself sometimes having this, I think it's more of a mental habit, is I go to these experiences and I immediately pick up the things that are different. They've got different robes, they've got different practice, they hold the Vinaya a little bit differently, they live a little bit differently. And it really takes my mind a little bit of a turning in the first day or so to start looking at all the things that connect us. And so when I went yesterday to the OGM Hermitage, I found that differently, that the similarities appeared much more strongly than they had previously. And it came in the form of a number of things. The first one was the remarkable impression I got from Ajahn Pasano, who is the abbot of Abbey. Because, you know, we have this wonderful abbess, Venerable Thupten Chodron. And there's something about these remarkable monastics who, not by their, well, sometimes by their choice, but otherwise by their directions of their teachers, to become abbots and abbesses. And Ajahn Pasano has been ordained for 40 years, and he's been an abbot for 30 of those. And he was given a great responsibility in Thailand. Well, he must have been in his 30s, maybe, and early, mid-30s, and he never looked back. And being in his presence yesterday is, you know, a lot like being in Venerable Thupten Chodron's presence too. The depth of the practice, doing something that's this, I would say from my side, looking outwards, that is constant, unending, the responsibility, the guidance, the training, the wisdom, the compassion that must be present as much as possible, because you're caring for your community as these sort of leadership roles. The depth of the patience, the humor, the storytelling, and the willingness to share, not only from their personal experience, but over all of these years, what works and what doesn't. And to listen to Ajahn talk about, because Venerable Chuni, all of us asked him questions about, well, how does this work? How do you see your role as an abbot? And how does your community make decisions? And how do you ordain people from the very time they write you and say, I want to come and be a monk? And how the process goes, and how they've kind of had to figure out how it works for their particular community, as we do here. You know, I said, gosh, we have to go through that same thing. You know, Venerable has got, you know, how she became an abbess, you know, the decisions that she made around that, how the community functions, how the structure is, who makes the decisions, how we do training, and how that whole process is, and to see a lot of the similarities. It was surprising how there were more similarities than not. And just the compassion and the wisdom that came from him that was very palpable. Someone who's been kind of, I think, been through the fire a few times and has had to deepen his practice because of his role in this life as a member of the Sangha. It was really quite, his countenance was very powerful, very powerful. That was one of the things that I saw a lot of similarities in our our abbot and abbess, some of their articulation of what has sort of unfolded organically from their role in their Sangha communities. The other one was, you know, here's this hermitage. They're a little bit more out in the middle of nowhere than we are. But how much work it takes to make these things happen. So to look at the dependent arising of this hermitage, on how the Sangha and their lay friends have had to really come together as this part of this dependent arising and build these kutis and build this barn and build these facilities, and how there's a kind of joy in the steadfastness of that endeavor. And that we as a community with our friends over the years, we kind of had to cultivate this kind of joyous effort that's got the joy but also has this steadfastness that comes with being able to, you can handle the obstacles, the fact that things don't just sort of arise like you make your plan and then shortly afterwards it starts to unfold. There's this very long, drawn out, sometimes complicated, sometimes filled with obstacles, because all the dependent arising is imbued with all the karmic results going on at the same time. And to see the warmth and see their willingness and to see their joy and to be able to undergo the hardships of making this hermitage happen, not only for their own community, but for Buddhist meditators, you know, in a lot of different ways. They had a fire there a few years ago that took down most of their forest, and so one of the reasons we were there was to help replant the forest. But the enthusiasm and the joy. And then the other thing that really was quite striking is that their laity, they had some of their lay friends who really, they drive them, they care for them in a little bit different way than our lay friends do, in that they do more of the personal, let's say they cook the food, they offer the food, they drive them, they do a lot of the physical work. You know, they hold their Vinaya slightly differently than we do. But once again, their absolute love and respect for the Sangha. It was very felt in the way in which they related to them, with a lot of respect and kindness and humility, and their joy at being able to do anything that could promote the Dharma, anything that could promote the monastic community to thrive and to have all the causes and conditions to be able to practice. And when I think about all the visitors and all the guests that we've had here the past 10 years and all of their wonderful support to feed us and to care for us and to take care of this place and to do things that are difficult and the things that we, you know, for various reasons are unable to do, and how they did it with so much joy and so much enthusiasm. There were just a lot of things that were interfacing more than I probably ever recognized. And so when I left yesterday, there was a connectedness. Take care, excuse me. Yes, hello. There was a sense, unlike sometimes me having to change my mind and say, let me look at the things that are similar, because there looks on the surface to be a lot of differences, that I had absolutely no problem yesterday seeing a lot of the similarities of our practice, our values, the love of the Vinaya, the joy of being a monastic. I mean, these monks had just really wonderful countenances and lots of nice, I don't know, just their presence was very joyful and very strong. So I really found it to be inspirational for my own practice, and also very reconfirming of my own monastic life, that the Western Buddhist Sangha is doing amazingly well, if we and they are any indication of it, and as well as our other Sangha friends that are Westerners, that the Sangha is growing really in wisdom and compassion and joyous effort, and holding, you know, their precepts as best as they can and being very diligent about it. But yet there was still a sense of ease and a sense of friendliness and welcoming. I didn't feel like a stranger. I really felt like a guest and a friend. And so I look forward to future exchanges, not only with the Abhayagiri monks and the Pacific Hermitage monks, but also with the rest of our Western Buddhist monastic friends. It gave me kind of this impetus to make sure that we continue to reach out and to invite our Sangha friends to come and join us here at the Abbey. It was really wonderful.